All right, folks. Let me get this adjusted just a little bit. Hey, we've got a great crowd here tonight. Thanks so much for coming in to Brave New Books. We're doing a live broadcast here in Austin, Texas. This is for our good friend Jim Mars. I think we all can consider Jim a friend at this point. You know, he's down here. He's on TV like every other day now. I turn the History Channel on. And, yeah, give him a round of applause. You know, we're blessed here in Texas to have people like Jim here, native Texans, and we're cursed at the same time because, you know, there's a yin and yang going on. For all the good we have, there's a lot of evil emanating from here. And before we get going on this alien agenda, we're going to talk about something real quick. Monday at the state capitol, if you guys can be there, I need you to get there. We've got a Senate bill coming up, and it's on the animal chipping, on the NAIS, and the premise ID. You know, I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of elite quotes and Kissinger quotes, but you know, they know that if they can control the food and the water, they can control you. Obama's got his little million-man army in place, this little green revolution army that's going to monitor food now. And there's also bills to keep you from growing food. So be very aware, you know, we can't do much fighting against what's coming unless we can have a little bit of food in our belly. So the website to go to, sorry about this boring part, but it's really important, farmandranchfreedom.org. That's Judith McGarry's website. It's farmandranchfreedom.org. And Monday, the 23rd of March at 3 p.m., and it's in the extension. It's kind of the catacombs of the Capitol where they do the, you know, administrative business, not the legal business of government. But, yeah, it's room E1.012. E1.012. Guys, get there, sign up, and if you can't do that, go to the website. There's some forms to send emails and letters to your senators. We've got to protect our food integrity at this point. Not everybody's going to want to eat fresh food. They're going to have food of convenience, and that's okay for most, but we need to arm ourselves.
What time is it?
3 o'clock Monday.
Very, very important.
Be there.
Please be there.
Very important.
All right. My name is Kevin Smith, and I've been involved in the truth movement and the patriot movement, or whatever, alternate media movement, whatever you want to call it. And I did a lot to make 9/11 more acceptable to mainstream. And I looked for a lot of avenues to get that message out there where we wouldn't just be preaching to the choir all the time, and make it and figure out ways that, you know, someone's ox was being gored. Maybe not the way mine was, but a way to reach out to them and make them understand that, hey, there's some things about 9/11. It's an inside job. You need to research it. And the one thing I used to run away from with like my hair on fire was anybody that was talking about UFOs. Was anybody that, and not because my father was an aerospace engineer. I was taught to fly by a 2-star general. These are things that we all knew, but if you didn't want to risk your career, you kept quiet about it. And I just looked at it from a point of view that whenever I've been challenged about 9/11, it's the Bigfoot, the grassy knoll, Chupacabra, you know the routine, it's the template they use to tear you down. So I always tried to separate it. But there's a problem, though, because once you start to understand in any of these topics that you've been lied to, and the history that you've been fed was incorrect, or at best a spin of the real truth, then you start to see a lot of commonalities. And when you understand about the JFK assassination, it makes it that much easier to understand about the Nazis running this country now. And so these things start to become intertwined. But we run into a problem, especially in 9/11 Truth, is that once we came up with a sexy new theory on something, we tend to cast everything that we knew that was proven away. And I think it kind of goes to that Goering saying, you know, the bigger the lie, the more apt people are to believe it. So we run into a problem with people wanting to have the newest, sexiest thing that they can get excited about, maybe put their name on and claim their claim of fame. So what we have here with Mr. Jim Mars is a professional, trained journalist, an investigative reporter, and the oxymoron of being Army intelligence also. But we have a real Texan that looked into the stuff in depth, speculated very little, and built facts around his case, and was able to present it in a way that's understandable and acceptable. And that's one of the... Jim, you're the only guy. You're the only guy that I will let mix 9/11 and stand in the same shot with and UFOs, because he can defend it. He can break it down, and he can say, well, today we're talking about aliens or UFOs. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the Nazis and 9/11. So I wouldn't get up here and introduce a guy like this if I didn't have full faith in him. So I'm going to shut up. Everybody, Jim Mars, we're going to talk about UFOs.
All right. Thank you so much, Kevin. Yeah, that kind of stole some of my thunder, though. But he's absolutely right. When Crossfire came out, and right after the Oliver Stone movie, you know, I was the darling of the JFK research community. And then I wrote Alien Agenda. I was disinvited to their conferences, you know. I was held at arm's length for about 6-8 years because I wrote about UFOs, as if that somehow disqualifies me from knowing anything about anything else. But that time has passed. Just this past November, I was invited back to the JFK Lancer thing in Dallas, and they actually gave me an award for being one of the early, long-time, and most steadfast seekers of truth in the JFK assassination. So maybe I've been slightly rehabilitated. All right, now I see a lot of familiar faces, so a lot of you have been down here before to New Brave Books, and you've heard me talk about 9/11, and you've heard me talk about the National Socialist takeover in this country, which now they got so blatant in their excesses that in November, thanks to the corporate mass media, we have now shifted from National Socialism to Marxist Socialism. And if you think that this is some kind of fringe conspiracy theory, just consider the cover of Newsweek a couple of weeks ago. Now we are all socialist. Yeah, we are. But when did we ever get the chance to vote for socialism? Is that really what we want, you know? And is that, who's behind all that? And before, let me add to one more thing, because I know some of you people are already cringing because you're probably great Obama fans. And let me say right off the bat, I got nothing personally against Barack Hussein Obama any more than I had against George W. Bush, personally. I know people who are good friends with George W. Bush, and they assured me that he was quite a good old boy. And I'm not prepared to argue. He may very well have been. But I think what we all understand is that he wasn't in charge. Dick Cheney was in charge. And his little presidential assassination ring, if you've happened to read that and know about what Seymour Hersh has now let out of the bag, and Dad, he was also there, and James Baker. And speaking of Dad, just to add a coda to those of you who heard my Rise of the Fourth Reich talk, last July in Germany, George Herbert Walker Bush was presented with this great award and hailed as being the one person most responsible for the reunification of Germany. George Herbert Walker Bush? And who gave him this award? Henry Kissinger. It gets better. And where did this award ceremony take place? On the shores of the Wannsee. Does anybody remember the Wannsee Conference of 1942? This is where the Nazis all met and decided on the final solution. Now, do you think this was just some kind of sheer coincidence, or are they thumbing their nose at us? And speaking of Dr. Kissinger, for any of you who are still hoping that Barack Obama may bring us some change, let me quote from the remarks of his new National Security Advisor, General James L. Jones, who last month at the Munich Security Conference got up and thanked them for honoring Dr. Kissinger.